Welcome, everybody. I think we'll get started because I know that our guest speaker today has a lot of information and wisdom to share. Can you see me? You can see me? Okay, because I can't see myself, but that's okay. I don't need to. I just want to begin this event today with a small chant. Nora, you're going to love this. And this chant really is just asking that students and teacher be protected, nourished, and work together with great energy, and that there's no animosity among us, which is kind of funny, but you know, it can happen. And then peace in me, peace in nature, and peace in the divine forces. So here is the chant. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahana Punatu Sahaviryam Karavavahe Tejasvina Vaditamastu Ma Vinvishavahe. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So hopefully that settled our minds a little bit, and definitely Nora will settle us some more. Welcome to the University of Guelph Wellness at Work sponsored Yoga Speaker Series event brought to you by the U of G Yoga and Meditation Collective. Today is we'd like to thank you for joining us today. Today's event is in celebration of the summer solstice and the UN-endorsed International Day of Yoga. This year's theme is Yoga for Humanity. Today is also National Indigenous Peoples Day, an official day of celebration to recognize and honor the achievements, history, and rich cultures of First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people in Canada. Today, we acknowledge that we are meeting on Aboriginal land that has been inhabited by Indigenous peoples since time immemorial. As settlers, we're grateful for the opportunity to meet here, and we thank all the generations of people who have taken care of this land for thousands of years. The University of Guelph resides on the ancestral and treaty lands of the Atawandaran people and the Mississaugas of the Credit, and we recognize and honor our Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, and Métis neighbors. We recognize and deeply appreciate their historic connection to this place. We humbly intend to learn new and unlearn old ways to continually bring into our awareness the responsibility we hold as settlers to make the promise and the challenge of truth and reconciliation real in our communities. So let's hold this acknowledgement and commitment in our hearts today as we explore the chakra system with Nora Benian, a celebrated yoga instructor and seasoned yoga therapist. Our special guest today is a dear friend of mine, as well as one of my primary and beloved yoga teachers. I have great respect for her dedication to the yoga practice, as well as her knowledge, experience, and wisdom of the yogic teachings. Nora is a Yoga Alliance certified teacher and yoga therapist. She's a celebrated senior Shivananda yoga teacher and teaches yoga workshops and teacher trainings at ashrams, yoga centers, and wellness conferences across the continent, as well as in the Caribbean. She specializes in Hatha yoga, restorative, and therapeutic yoga. Please welcome Nora Benian.
Thank you, Monique. That was really a nice introduction. And so we do have a lot that we want to cover today. So this is how I'm going to set up the day or this presentation. There's a lot of information, but I know some of you are joining just for the hour from 12 until 1, and some of you would like to practice. So what I'll do is do a brief overview, a idea of how everything works, and we'll practice, And then after the practice, those of you who have questions and want to know more, I'm going to go into some depth about the chakras and how we're affected by them and how we affect them, and maybe some discussion if it comes up and if you have some questions. So the first 20 minutes will be the overview, then we'll practice, then we'll have some in-depth talk about it, and then maybe some questions if you have any. So if any of you have to go early, you're going to get the meat of the practice at least. So the chakras are really it's sort of like a hidden secret kind of information that we come into as we practice. It's not something that most teachers talk too much about at the beginning. Let's say if you're a beginner in yoga, it's not something we bring up very often because it is something that is hard to not just imagine, but embody until you've had some practice and found some type of reaction in the body to your practices. So I will pull up a screen share and show you a little bit more about what I mean. Can you see this? Yes, okay. Okay, so the chakras have a history that dates back pretty much to the beginning of yoga, except the purpose of knowing about the chakras is totally different than, I would say mostly different than what we know about them or think about them today. So I'll just go through the whole thing here. I'm just going to move you a little bit over, maybe to this side. There we go. Okay. So the concept of the chakras are basically subtle energy centers that live in the body. Each tradition has a slightly different number. So we've had 11, we've had as little as 5. And each tradition has the same idea of how we have these energy lines that run through the body, otherwise known as prana nadis. They are the containers, the vessels of the energy that move through the body, and they meet at certain points, which the 5 major ones would be the sacral, solar plexus, heart, throat, and the third eye. The crown is not even considered an actual energy center for the physical body. It is an entry point for the divine, and it has been considered a chakra in the system, but it doesn't really correspond to any real physical aspects like the other ones do. The root came in later. I don't know about what point it did. But most scholars of yoga have come to the conclusion that yes, these energy centers exist and they are located in these areas, and the information about them has evolved over time. So let me just see if I can carry on here. So the definition of a chakra is really a wheel. It's a wheel of energy. It's a turning, spinning force. And it's really because all the energy lines meet at this center, and of course they have to do something. There's a movement that happens. So it spins and it blends and then it disperses again. The more we are awake and open in the area, the better the energy flow is. Let's say we have poor posture and we sit for long periods of time. It is the tension around the area that causes the spinning energy to kind of be condensed and maybe move even more slowly. So our physical structure affects the energy, and our psychological well-being affects the energy as well. These things can be enhanced or improved by the way we think, by how much we've healed, and the way we practice our life, basically, how we move our bodies, how we deal with tension. And there's many things that can cloud the energy, like stimulants and medication, lack of sleep, lack of nutrients. These things will affect the body, which will then in turn affect the energy flowing through us. But we can still mentally focus on these centers to help move that energy. So we can visualize them as, radiant, radiant, or abundant energy areas in the body. The origin of this started with the practice, the Hindu rituals that we practice for mantra and meditation, called nyasa. And it really means to deposit or settle down. So it's a Hindu concept, and it's really about either touching the center or having a mantra like a series of words that have spiritual or sacred meaning to you, that have a vibration which affects the chakra. So when we chant Om, the vibration of Om will awaken pretty much all the energy centers in the body, but mostly focuses on the third eye. When we vibrate with this energy of the chant, we settle things down, we reduce tension, we harmonize our energy moving through the body, which then allows the energy centers, otherwise known as chakras, to be moving in the direction they're supposed to be moving in, and also in the speed that they are best moving in for health, and also as vibrant. And that doesn't mean color necessarily, that just means strength of energy. So there are some seed sounds. So we talked about the mantra. Seed sounds are really also known as bijas. It's a vibration. And I just learned actually recently while putting this together that the seed sound is not connected necessarily to each chakra individually, which I will explain more about in a minute. It's more connected to the element, so earth, fire, wind, water, ether. It's more connected to the element that is predominant in each chakra. But you can bring in each element to each chakra as well. So you do not have to only chant hum for the highest space and lam for the lowest space. You can chant any one of these seed sounds for each of the chakras if you choose to. But it is commonly practiced in modern day yoga, that lam is the lowest, the base chakra, and hum is the highest. So it's lam, vam, ram, yam, hum, but there's also a couple more which you'll hear about in a moment. Okay, so modern thoughts. I just explained a lot of this to you. There are some lineages out there who believe that the earth resides in the heart, not necessarily in the root. So this gives you the idea that you can apply each of the elements to each of the chakras. So yantras are the sacred geometrical symbols that are used to symbolize each of the chakras. And they have different shapes and different number of petals, and they all are representing something specific, which we're not going to get into today because it's just a little too in-depth for the time that we have for today. But the earth is red, and the yellow square, so there's really inside, if they were all colored up, the yellow square represents earth traditionally. And then we have water, which is the second chakra, and it's represented by a moon. So the second chakra is here. Here we have a moon. Moon and water are one, really, because the moon affects the tides and we are made up of water mostly. So we're affected by the moon and the cycles of the moon as well. So this is why this is in the second chakra area. And then we have the triangle, down pointed triangle, which is like a fire, a sign for fire. This is the Manipura, the center. And I'll get into the position of where these lay in the body eventually as well. So as you can see, the symbols have something to do with the meanings behind each of the chakras. Here we have a chart that describes the name in English, the name in Sanskrit. So Muladhara is the root, earth. Lam is the seed sound. And if you're going to tie it into a deity, a Hindu deity, it would be Ganesh. Ganesh is the obstacle remover. He is the elephant head figure. There's a story behind how he got his elephant head, which I'm not going to tell you today, but you can find out if you Google it. He is like the solid guy who moves things out of your way. And when you chant or pray or keep in mind visually the deity of Ganesh, you are allowing the root chakra to become grounded and free from obstacles. And there's many obstacles which in life, as we know. Our own fears, the fears of those around us that are being kind of absorbed, our parents, our systems, they all have these limitations. But as spiritual beings, we can walk through all of that and not be stopped. We can always have a path forward and not see these things as limitations. So he removes those obstacles. Then we have the sacral chakra, which lives in the pelvic area, known as Svadhisthana. Water is the element, and Vam is the seed sound. And Brahma, who is the four-headed creator of all, he's the one that is living in this area, and this is the area of reproduction. So we are creating here. And then we have the solar plexus, also known as Manipura, in the upper abdomen, just above the navel. This is fire. And Ram. Ram is a fire-sounding seed sound. So it kind of goes, you can see how they go. Vishnu is the preserver. So Vishnu is... I won't get into too much detail, but he's like the one who keeps things moving. He's the preserver. Heart chakra, Anahata. Wind, Yam. And then Rudra. Rudra is a divine archer who's associated with wind or storm. And a lot happens in the heart. All these waves of emotions and all these experiences. So Rudra is the one who's like moving that energy. Then we have the throat, Vishuddha, space or ether, and hum. So here they have hum as all three, but I have been taught that the third eye and the third eye especially is om, and the top, the crown, could be soham or just hum. And Ishvara. Ishvara is like the human aspect of the divine. And then the third eye, Ajna, or Anya, sometimes it's said without the sound of the J, is space or ether again. And I'm going to say Om here. And Sadashiva, he is the highest manifestation of Shiva, the Lord of Destruction. So here we have an ability to see beyond what the physical eyes can see. And when that happens, all our delusions are destroyed. We are now seeing more clearly. And then the crown, as I said, is really a energetic center that is more about allowing the divine into the energy into the body, called Sahasrara. It's connected to ether again, and we'll say Soham here. And Bhairava is also a supreme ruler of the universe, but he guards the treasures. And so this is the 1,000-petaled lotus considered as a treasure. This opening is a treasure. Okay, so we'll carry on from here. We've got the 7 chakras, and we have named them, and I've told you where they're located, but we've got more to it than that. So let's start at the root. The root or the perineum, right down at the base of the spine, in all that tissue lives this energy. It is physically connected to things like elimination, and not just elimination of food, but elimination of your toxins, so sweat, elimination of your tears. Anything that is pulling down and out is connected to this area. And the more you are connected to the earth, meaning you spend time in nature, you put your bare feet on the ground, you feel connected to Mother Nature, the better this area operates. If you've had any familial, so family or tribe-like issues that are unresolved, it will affect the feeling of comfort and stability and safety. And this chakra has some work to do. There's some work to I would say, solve some issues that live and are pertaining to this particular chakra. So when we go to therapy, like psychotherapy, we are working on this particular issue primarily. Yes, we're working on the heart and other things as well, but really most people suffer because of their early years not having a full understanding of the treatment they may have received, or maybe they moved a lot. Maybe they didn't have a solid one parent constantly available to them. Maybe there's been some abuse and lack of trust. And so these would all live in this particular area. And then we have the Svadhisthana, the second chakra, the spleen or sacral chakra. And it can be considered located at the sacrum. We're usually talking about these energy centers connected to the spine when we talk about it. Although it affects organs, it affects movement in the body, like the energetic movement, it affects glands as well. In this particular area, it is more about creativity, sexuality, sensuality, procreation, ability to experience pleasure, and emotions. So it is fluid, it's governed by water and therefore governed by the moon. And we will be changing constantly here. You will be each day experiencing something different in this energy center based on the movement, the position of the moon, the position of the planets. There's much more to it than what we're talking about today, but this is the basic idea. A lot of women today have difficulty with fertility, and it is mostly because we have a difficult relationship with ourselves, because this energy center is about your relationship with yourself. This is primarily the problem. There's other issues, tension around this area, which I can talk about at a future time if we ever get the opportunity. But if we are able to go with the flow and not always having to control everything, we have a much better flow of energy through this center. People who only can do things a certain way and no other way have a strict, restricted flow of energy through this area, which can cause reproductive issues, lack of creativity, even on a outward level, not just procreative, and also a difficult relationship with themselves, because it has to be a certain way. They can't allow themselves to go with the flow. It causes some trouble. So then we move up to the solar plexus, right above the navel. The color is yellow. It governs things like digestion, but not just digestion of food, information as well. So any stimulation, any information that comes in through you is digested and processed in this particular center. And it goes through the filter of who you think you are, your ego. So if you have a low self-esteem, for instance, the way you process information and how it pertains to you is different than if you have a healthy self-esteem. You see things differently. Maybe someone did something and you took it personally by being a little, insecure. But if someone did that same thing and you were feeling a little more, positive or healthy self-esteem, you would see what they did as not necessarily a personal thing for you to experience, but something that they're going through, and their reaction or behavior has to do with them and not me. So these are just small examples of how the way you view the world is filtered through the center. And so posture highly affects this area. So if you have poor posture, and people often have poor posture because of how they feel about themselves, how they view themselves in the world. But then there's also the opposite. People who have maybe an exaggerated sense of self in the world, you will see them having a more prominent belly here. It kind of protrudes a little bit more. It's almost like I'm a big person, I mean, this is just generalizing, but you've got the idea. And we've seen these people, and we know in public figures, we can see how these people behave and how their body kind of shows you how they think about themselves. To most, I would say, to the greatest degree that we can perceive these things. So then we move to the heart. The heart is the middle of the seven, okay? It has to communicate information coming from the lower three chakras and the upper three chakras. The heart makes sense of the world. The heart gives you the ability to understand, not just feel, but understand why. Understand this feeling and why it's coming to you in this way. So it has a lot of processing and filtering and communicating to do. And that's why it's sometimes difficult to really know what the heart is saying to you, what it's feeling, because it's got a lot happening. It takes a while for it to settle down, for it to communicate the result of all that communicating. So there really needs to be periods of time where you sit still and really inquire or contemplate or check in for those insights or realizations to come through, because it's always working. Unless you give it time to just settle down and you sit with it, sometimes we're living more in a confused way than a clear way when it comes to the heart. So why meditation is very important. It's also about expression, a little bit back into, the compassion, expression through compassion. So the heart is the accepting, the forgiving, the loving, the peace, driven toward peace. But what the heart understands is communicated to your external world. So when people are drawn to you naturally because you have a compassionate heart, it's not because you've said anything or even smiled at them. It's because they feel that. They feel they can trust being in your presence because you're not going to judge them. You're unconditional in your loving. Whereas when you have a closed heart, and closed heart happens to all of us at some point, a heartbreak, a boyfriend breaks up with you, a loss of a family member, a friend. Maybe you've disappointed yourself and you feel lack of love for yourself. Maybe you've been disappointed one too many times because you've put your hopes into something that didn't come through. And we can talk about hope some other time, but we create the experience by how we allow ourselves to heal. Healing takes time. We live in a world that's very, very busy. There's not a lot of time to stop and heal. Sometimes you get to be so ill energetically that you can't function anymore, and you have to stop and heal. physical symptoms set in, by the way. Every time you have unresolved issues, physical symptoms are felt in the body because that is what's communicating to you that you have something going on. So all the physical symptoms you have in your body are there to tell you something. Through the energy centers, you can understand that a little bit better. Through the chakras, you can start to make sense. Where's this pain? It's in my leg. Okay, what did I do? I don't know what I did. What's this pain talking about? Why is it hurting me? Okay, maybe it has to do with the root, because root chakra, Muladhara, governs the legs. So this type of introspection that has to happen for you to have a little bit of an idea of what the body's trying to tell you. So the heart is always processing and working, always forgiving, always trying to cope with the world events. I mean, we feel everybody's pain. We really do, on some level, feel the pain of those suffering everywhere in the world. Whether you watch the news or not, whether you're really aware of it or not, you still feel it. It's still coming in. The stronger you are as a person, the healthier you are, the better you can manage it, the easier it is for you to make sense or understand or accept it, the better you feel. The harder that is for you to do, the more it weighs on you, the more it closes you up, making it harder for you to connect with other people, which is why maybe they don't come your way, because they feel a closed heart. So this is, out of everything you get from today with me, I would try to take this with you. The state of your heart governs the state of your life experience over all the other, because it is the communicator of all the other chakras. It is the one that's neutralizing and understanding what's happening in all the other chakras. So if you only focus on one, if you only have time to focus on one, focus on the heart. And then we'll move to the Vishuddha, the throat chakra. Basically, it's about truth and communication, and being able to communicate your truth. Those of us that have been stifled in our lives, maybe parents said, children are to be seen and not heard, this type of thing. If they don't allow you to express yourself, your feelings especially, we've had some level of constriction here. Even at school, we want to speak up about something and you can't, because it means your mark will be lower. Or you might lose your job because you've spoken in a way that upset your boss or your superiors. But if you're able to communicate truthfully, whether it's on paper, whether it's to a friend, whether it's to a therapist, you can free this energy and you can solve a lot of your expression issues. Some people have difficulty projecting their voice. Some people have difficulty finding words. Some people have difficulty telling you what they want or not want. Difficulty saying no. Very difficult for people who have been stifled here. So chanting, singing is one of the best ways to loosen up the energy here. So if you go to a vocal coach, they will help you with that. Or if you just put on a YouTube video of someone chanting and then you want to join in, that's going to help. Singing in the shower helps. Just doing Om helps. Gargling with salt can help. People who have a lot of throat issues, like tonsillitis, laryngitis, that type of thing, lose their voice often, you can be sure they have some energy issues here. It manifests in the throat. And then we have the third eye, Ajna chakra, between the eyebrows. It really is more deep actually into the center of the head, connected to the pineal gland, which is known for producing melatonin, which is the hormone that makes you feel rested and happy. And when you give enough attention to the third eye in meditation, they say that half an hour meditation is equal to about 2 to 3 hours of sleep in the way of resting the body and the nervous system. So again, if you're tired, if you feel like you don't get good sleep, If you have difficulty with joy, you can focus on this particular area and start to soften the area, allow it to have some space to move its energy. A lot of us are closed-minded. We're fearful of things we don't understand. So we close our minds, which then blocks your ability to access your intuition or your ability to imagine, which has to do with creativity as well. But even imagining the outcome of a scenario is helpful for you to make a decision. So it sometimes has nothing to do with your imagination, like if you're going to write a story, but it's more about your ability to visualize and project an outcome based on what you already know and feel. You really want this chakra to be functioning well, because without it, we make more mistakes. We have less ability to see which direction to go. So this is the seeing eye that we want to awaken. And one way to help this particular area is to decrease the amount of fluoride. So if you have, if you live in a city where they put fluoride in the water, you can buy a fluoride filter. Or you can use some solvents that help reduce the fluoride in it that you put into your water. You can also take more curcumin, turmeric in ginger and tamarind. These help to dissolve the effects of calcification. So the fluoride and other substances, chemicals, they calcify our glands. When our glands are calcified, they don't work as well. And that governs your glands, produce the hormones that move through your body to tell your body how to be, what to do, at what point. So again, focusing on these areas will also help bring life to them. Where you put your energy, the energy flows. Where you put your attention, I should say, the energy flows. So remember, when you focus on these points, you are healing them. You are bringing life to them. You are awakening them. And so then we have the final chakra, the Sahasrara, at the top of the head. Basically, your knowledge is as vast as the universe's knowledge. If you're able to channel it into you, if you're able to focus on opening yourself up to the universal wisdom, you can pull it in, and you can become wise on any subject as long as you bring your attention to these things. Yeah, you do have to follow up with, reading and learning from other teachers, but the practice of meditation brings you to those teachers, brings you to those books, brings you to those courses. So you are naturally moving in the direction you need to be moving in, acting in the way you need to be acting in, and functioning in the way you need to be functioning in when you are aligned and these energy centers are functioning and moving the energy well. So I will go into detail of this at the end. Okay, so on each chakra I have a little more information. So we're going to move all the way to this is the prana nadis. I just needed to show you this picture. This is painted by Alex Gray, or drawn by Alex Gray. He's a spiritual artist. Of course, all artists are spiritual, but his goal is to depict how the energy moves through the body. And I found him in LA in 1998. I think, Adele, you were with me. Maybe not, but it was an exhibit with Alex Gray. And I walked in there and my mind literally blew open when I saw his artwork. This is one of them. And as you can see, he's got the energy centers, and he's also got the lines. You see all these lines? You see them all running through the body. There's 72,000 energy lines, or prana nadis, that run through the body. And why that number, I don't know, but all the traditions that follow this, like Chinese medicine, yogic philosophy, and anyone else, I'm not aware of the others that are following it, they all say the same numbers, the same 72,000 energy channels. But can you see now how they not just are in the body, but they move out into the grid of the entire universe. We are all connected through these energy lines. We are all affected by each other, and we affect the others. What's going on in the world? Every living being is affecting this grid of energy, and we are affected by it. So just remember that it's not all us. It's not only us that has something going on. We are feeling the effects of the entire collective. And to keep this in mind, because we really aren't separate from each other. And when you have a pain, be sure someone else has a pain too. And when you're healing, be sure someone else is healing too. So that just kind of pulls it a little bit closer. Here are some poses for each of the chakras. I wanted to show you this, not so that you remember it. If you have the ability to take a screenshot of your screen right now, I would recommend doing that. But if you don't, I can always forward this to you if you contact me. These are basic. For the root chakra, we have things that are seated, standing, and engaging the legs, okay? For the sacral chakra, we have things that open the hips and strengthen the hips because it is in the pelvic region. Then for the solar plexus, we have things that strengthen the core or open the center of the body, either through twist or back bend, or even closing up the body like a child's pose. For heart, we have things that lift the chest, open the chest. And you can see all of these poses are doing that, even the twist here. For the throat, we have things that fold in or open up this way. We have things that bring energy to the throat, like this one right here, the bridge pose. The pelvis is up and brings energy to the throat. And then we have the third eye, anything that requires you to focus deeply. So you can see like a standing forward bend, you're turning inward. It could be seated forward bend too, not just standing. If you're in a meditative pose, you're bringing your attention there. If you're focusing, oops, sorry, I lost it. The attention, centered attention. Again, you're bringing your attention to the center line. This would awaken that area. And then with the crown, boy, anything goes with the crown, really. They've got tree pose, headstand, back bend, forearm stand, anything that kind of brings energy to the top of the head, like rabbit pose, and then of course Shavasana. Okay, so I will begin a practice now. So I'm going to end the screen share. And hopefully you have a mat nearby. And if you want me to see you, place your camera on your mat. I'll give you just all a minute to get set up. So okay. So we're going to do a little bit for each of the chakras, and we'll start with a seated forward bend. So just imagine we've had the time to do, the Oms and the Shavasana and the slowly getting up, because we are working on a time limit here, and I actually have to keep track of the time. Wow, I talked for a long time. But okay, we'll do a little practice here. So let's extend the legs out in front and lift the chest and place the hands on the floor. We're going to slowly walk forward, but don't come all the way. Really feel the connection of the tailbone to the floor. So you're not coming so far forward that you don't feel it. And feel the weight of the pelvis resting down, relaxing the backs of the legs. Allow the hip flexors to soften so that the legs can drop more heavily down. It might even help you to put your thumbs into the hip flexor and push downward, really grounding the pelvis. And once things start to release right in the connection of the hamstring to the sit bone, you're welcome to come more forward, but use your hands for support and keep rounding the back. So you're not arching, but you're rounding, keeping the sit bones down and the tailbone down. And you can let the head drop, and we'll take about 5 deep breaths here. Okay, slowly push yourself up and come to an upright position. So this pose itself is called staff pose or dandasana, with the hands beside you on the floor, palms down, pushing into the arms, lifting the chest, but also dropping the tailbone and the sit bones. This pose is also very grounding and good for the root chakra. So just feel the energy moving downward. Feel gravity's pull for a few breaths. Okay, so we'll come out of this. We'll come into a bound angle forward bend. I like to put a blanket underneath the ankle bones, so the outer edge of your legs, and maybe roll up the corners of the blanket to cushion the outer edge of the legs. So the feet are together, the knees are out. Some of you may feel a little bit more comfortable with blocks under the knees, especially if you have tight hips and they're not relaxing easily. So this is not yin, and so we're not holding for 5 minutes, but we're still doing yoga poses for about a minute per pose. Okay, we good? You can place the hands on the floor in front of you or onto a block, and then start to lean forward. And your goal is not so much about coming forward. It's more about letting go of the legs, dropping the hips down, dropping the thigh bone down toward the floor, away from the hip socket. And if you want to round the back and drop the head, remember not to lean forward so much as to curl the spine and drop the head, so that the tailbone is making connection, but the hips are dropping. We'll take about 5 full breaths here. Really let the legs be heavy. And keep letting go through the hips. So the sacral chakra, or the svadhisthana, governs the hips. And when the hips are tight, the energy that moves through that area is also a little bit restricted. And so just by doing some hip openers like we're doing right now, we're getting a bit of a change in that energy center. Really tune into that location, the middle of the pelvis. See if you can feel anything happening. And sometimes you feel it structurally happening, and that's good. But see if you can feel the energy. Still breathing deeply. Okay, let's slowly come on up. So for the hips, we can do one more. We're going to cross the right ankle over the left knee, and we're seated, and we're just going to pull the knee in closer to us. So this can be done lying down if you feel more comfortable lying down, but seated you might find it feels a little bit different. So we're on the ground with our sit bones. We've got our right ankle over top of the thigh just in front of the knee, and we're pulling the left foot in and knee in, and we're going to take 5 breaths. So we worked on the inner edge of that thigh bone and hip socket. Now we're working on the outer edge. Okay, good. Let's switch. If your knee is bothered by this, try flexing the foot. So we're pulling the right knee in, sitting up, taking deep breaths. Okay, and release. So we'll move to the solar plexus now. I'm going to do 2 different poses with you. One is to strengthen the core, and one is to open up the mid-back. So place your hands on the floor behind you and lean back. Some of you can do this without hands, but I'm guessing some of you may need them. So hands are behind you, you're going to lift the legs. And so this is, you're still kind of rounding the back here, so try not to arch the back, but see the difference between rocking the pelvis. So tuck the pelvis under, lean back. If you feel like it, you can release the arms and reach them forward. And so we'll hold this for a few breaths. So this is activating the energy in the center of the body, the solar plexus area. Okay, good. And so now what we'll do is a mild back bend. There's 2 or 3 different options, but I think we'll try camel. Some of you may not be able to kneel on the knees, and in that case, you can lay over a rolled blanket to lift the middle of your body here, like the back ribs. But if you're able to kneel on your knees, come up onto your knees. Tuck your pelvis under. So don't let your bottom stick out, but rather tuck it under. And then with one hand, lean back to touch the heel and reach the other arm up. Okay, come on up. Let's do the other side. With the other hand, touch the other heel and reach up. Then come on up. And if your back allows, if you have no pain in the low back doing that, then you can put both hands on your heels and reach the chest up. And if that hurts, then you're going to come around and do a child's pose instead. Okay, and once you're finished your camel, then you can come down onto your heels and round the back and drop the head, curling the spine to alleviate the tension you might have created, and breathing into the back. Okay, slowly roll up one vertebra at a time. We're going to come to lie on our back. We're going to work on the heart now. There's different ways of doing this, but we're going to do fish pose. So fish pose is really it depends on the strength of your shoulders and the openness of your upper back. So I will show you an option, okay, if this doesn't work for you. So we're going to lie down on our back. And you're going to walk the arms under your body. So you're going to be lying on your arms, palms down. Squeeze the shoulders towards each other. Rise up onto your forearms. Look at your toes. And bring the top of the head to the floor. Squeeze the shoulders back. So if you can do this and it doesn't feel like there's any pain anywhere, do it. But make sure when you come out, you're looking at your toes and then rolling down and removing your hand. For those of you that have some discomfort, maybe through the shoulders, you can roll up a blanket, place it behind you, and put it under your shoulder blades and open up like this and just lay on the floor for about 5 breaths. And those of you who are not able to hold very long in your fish, when you come out, you can also put the blanket behind you and lay on your back. So I can't see you all. You can make decisions about what's going to work for you. Let's stay here for about 5 more breaths if you're able to. And just feel the chest expanding and the upper back releasing and the shoulders opening up away from the chest. So this pose is not just for the heart, it's also for the throat. But we are going to follow up with a different pose for the throat shortly. Once you're finished your 5th breath and you're still in fish, lift your head, look at your toes, and roll out. Those of you on a blanket are going to bend the knees, roll to the side, and move your blanket out of the way. And all of you can come onto your side now. Okay, and then slowly come to sit up. So our next pose will be more directed through throat energy, and we're going to make this one a comfortable pose. We're going to use a block if you have one. If you don't have a block, you can use a blanket and fold it up quite high. We're going to put it under the pelvis. Those of you who come to my classes regularly know this pose well because I do it often. So you're going to lay down on your back, press into your feet, lift the pelvis, slide the block under, part the feet to the width of the mat, and drop the knees in toward each other. So we have the energy moving to the throat. We're also releasing low back tension, which I'm sure most of you will appreciate. So once you get settled in, you know, the block is at the lowest setting for now. If you can keep it there, do that. Sometimes people want to feel more, so they can lift the height of the block 1 notch, but I don't recommend it unless you're really feeling like nothing's happening for you in the lower setting. So we're going to be here for a couple of minutes. Relax the jaw especially. Soften the throat. Let the eyes rest back in their sockets. Taking deep breaths in toward the belly. check that the jaw is still relaxed. Even if you're not in this pose, say ah. Relax the jaw. Let the tongue soften. Okay, let's take a few more deep breaths. And then draw the navel to the spine, bring the knees to the chest and give them a hug, even with the block or blanket underneath you. And then if you're able to, just lift your pelvis a little and push the block out from underneath you and roll to your side. And slowly push yourself up. Okay, so I thought we would do a meditation for the last two chakras, because really without a proper warm-up we shouldn't be getting into all the poses that would stimulate it. So meditation is a very good one. So let's come back to the screen. It's nice to see how many people showed up today. Very nice. Okay, so let's do a little meditation for the Ajna chakra, for the pineal gland, or the space between the eyebrows. Now, if you are not comfortable seated, you can lie down to do this, or you can sit in a chair and lean against the back of the chair. But what we're going to do to begin is we're going to tap it to start, okay? So using a ring finger, dominant hand ring finger, I would say, you're just going to spend a moment just kind of tapping this area. Close your eyes and just tap lightly at a speed that feels good for you. So we'll do this for about a minute. Take deep breaths. So we're bringing our awareness to it. We're kind of loosening up the tension in the forehead and between the eyebrows. Loosening some of those eye muscles as well. And then we can bring the hand down. We can bring the hands into chin mudra, so thumb and index tips touching, and place the backs of the hands on the thighs, so that you're resting the hands down, shoulders are relaxed, sitting up tall. Reaching the crown of the head up and the root of the tailbone down, or the end of the tailbone, I should say. And so we'll just take some deep breaths first, filling up the belly. What we're going to do now is bring our attention to the core energy of the earth. So right down into Mother Earth, right into the center. Bring your attention there for a moment. You can imagine it to be whatever it is for you. But pull that energy up through the soles of your feet or the seat of your, as you're sitting down, whatever is touching the ground. Pulling that energy up through the legs, up into the root chakra, the Muladhara, red in color, base of the spine. Imagining this energy moving the center. So the energy of the earth is starting to move the energy of your first base chakra. And just see which direction it's moving in. You don't have to make it up. Just see what happens when you bring your attention there. Notice how the legs are feeling as you're bringing energy into this area. Perhaps they're relaxing, becoming warmer. Continue to bring energy up from the core of the earth through the legs and into the first chakra, all the way up into the second chakra in the middle of the pelvis against the sacrum. Orange in color, governed by water and the moon. And see this energy moving into the first and second chakra, waking it up, expanding it. And notice which way the energy is moving in this energy wheel or chakra. And then continue pulling the energy from the core of the earth up through the legs, through the first and second chakra to the Manipura, the solar plexus right above the navel, yellow in color. Fire element. Just see the energy moving into this area and notice what happens. Keep breathing deeply into the belly. Notice how your back is feeling. And then we'll continue pulling the energy up from the core of the earth through the legs, through the first, second, and third chakra into the heart chakra, the Anahata, green in color, governed by air. Affecting the heart, the lungs, the upper back. Notice how the energy from the core of the earth is affecting the heart chakra. Notice which way the energy is moving. And continuing to feel the expansion of this energy into the chest. Continuing to pull the energy from the core of the earth up through the legs, through the first, second, third, fourth chakra to the throat, Vishuddha, blue, ether or space, communication of truth. And just notice how this energy center is feeling. Notice how the throat feels, in the back of the neck, and the jaw. We'll continue to pull the energy up from the core of the earth through all the chakras, through the base, the spleen or sacral chakra, the solar plexus, the heart, the throat, and into the third eye. The space between the eyebrows right toward the center of the head, usually depicted as a violet color or indigo, governing your insights, your visions, your imagination, and your intuition. Just see what's happening here. Just relax the eyes and the forehead. Perhaps the earth energy is spreading out through the body, through the head. Just hold our attention here for a little bit longer. And then, if you're ready and you want to, continue to pull the energy up from the core of the earth through the whole body to the crown of the head, softening the space between the bones of the skull. Imagining white light pouring in through the top of the head. Allowing that white light to spread through all the skull bones, scalp muscles. Feeling your connection to the whole universe and beyond. So now we're continuing to pull the white light from the universe and the heavens down in through the crown, moving through the third eye between the eyebrows, meeting the earth energy there. And then pulling the divine energy down through the crown, third eye into the throat, meeting earth energy there. And again, the divine energy through the crown, third eye, throat into the heart. Watching the earth energy and the divine energy swirling through the heart chakra. Continuing to pull the divine energy through the chakras all the way down to the solar plexus, right above the navel. And then continuing to pull the divine energy through all the chakras from the crown to the sacral chakra in the pelvis. Finally, pulling the divine energy right down through the body to the base of the spine, the Muladhara, the root chakra. I will answer that as soon as we're done with this, just a few minutes. So just feel this energy of the earth and the divine energy moving through the body from opposite ends, filling you up completely. Feel this energy moving through the limbs, all the way out to the fingertips and the toes, out toward the skin. And then we'll release this practice, sending the energy of the divine some love, and sending the energy of the earth some love. We'll bring our hands together at the heart, pressing the thumbs against the breastbone, bowing the head slightly toward the fingers. And we'll finish with an Om. Let's take a deep breath in. Om. Thank you for practicing with me today. I'm opening this up for questions, and maybe I'll have an opportunity to share a little bit more depending on how long our question sessions go. The practice we just did, by the way, is really a very centering, grounding, but also uplifting. So we're bringing everything to us from bottom and top. And if you ever feel a little unstable, off center, confused, directionless, this particular meditation has been very helpful for myself and for the students that I share it with. So you might want to adopt it as well. All right, so does anyone have any questions? Let's ask yours first. Katira, you had a question?
My question was that when I go deep and close my eyes, then I fall asleep.
It may be that you're tired. Really, truly, we are tired. We are tired people. We push ourselves a little bit beyond what's ideal for the nervous system. So if you're falling asleep, it's okay. It's not a bad thing. It's just you really are being told you need more rest. Yeah. Yeah. Anybody? Yes?
Yeah, I had a question. First of all, I would like to know more about you. Can you post some, like send us some email, contact, if that's all right? And also, I would like to get some of the, the posts, like some of the displays on the board you showed, some of the, the documents that you shared with us, the pages. If you could share it with us, I don't know who else wants it, but I certainly would. I found it extremely enlightening, like, my knowledge about yoga and also what you explained is very like choppy, so this really brought it all together for me. And I particularly found this meditation, the chakra meditation, extremely helpful. It does ground you. Yeah,
I'm very glad to hear that.
Sense of calm. That's wonderful.
Good. I can send the PDF of the slideshow to Monique, who can distribute it to all of you, and she can also connect you with me through the email. So you're welcome to email me. I can add you to my email list for whatever information that I may be sending out in the future as well.
Where do you live?
I now live in Tennessee.
Oh.
Yes, I'm from Toronto, Canada. I married an American, and now I live here.
Great.
Yes.
She does come to Guelph from time to time.
Yes, and I lived in Guelph for 4 years, and still it's very dear to me. I love Guelph. Yes. Any other questions?
Nora, can you turn off your microphone? Nora?
Yes?
Not from. Yeah, I just say thank you so much. That is one of the most lucid explanation of chakras that I heard. Very, very clear. So thank you very much. I think it was helpful for everybody.
You're very
Uh,
welcome.
question. Yeah, there, there. That's what I wanted. So you started the meditation, from the root chakra, from the earth, Can you also start from the crown chakra and then like reverse?
Absolutely.
And
Yes, you
what will
can.
the impact of that?
Yeah, so every tradition does it slightly differently. I find that most of us human beings are not grounded. I find we are walking very unstably in the sense of where we belong in the world. Our we don't have a sense of who we really are on the earth. And those who are very intellectually oriented are very much in their heads. And I'm going to assume most people here today are on that side. So I find starting on the ground and the root a good place to begin the relaxation process. The nervous system sometimes is overwhelmed with all the mental activity. So I like to bring the attention to the base first and then move up. But if you're grounded and you feel solid and you know who you are in this world and what you're here for, starting at the crown is an excellent way to move into meditation and to bring the divine energy in. You're really doing both all the time. I mean, earth energy is divine energy. It's just our imagination is helping us pull it into us from one side or the other or both. And actually, it's all around us. We can be pulling it in through our skin, through our aura and into our skin and into our bones and into all of our cells from whatever angle you want. But yeah, definitely, if it feels right for you to pull it in through the crown first, do that. Yes, I have a question here on chat. I just wanted to, if bringing my attention or energy to an area wakes up pain in that area, would you recommend responding to that during the meditation or doing anything to offer relief or just sitting with it? This is a very good question. Waking up my heart often brings up pain, especially in the spine. Okay, very good example. Thank you so much, Annie, for sharing that. You're going to become aware of your pain when you bring your attention to these particular areas where there is unresolved issues. The pain is the message. Ask the pain questions. Talk to the pain. Try to find out where the pain is, where the source of the pain is. When did this start? These are questions to ask yourself. You can journal about it. And then to relieve the pain after your meditation, move into let's say it's the heart, right? The heart chakra. Then you move into a back bend with a rolled blanket under the upper back. Or you move into a side bend to release some tension that's in the sides of the body. And definitely, maybe get massages if the upper back is hurting, that type of thing. Or you can roll on a ball. So this is not instant. For some people, it can be instant healing. And I can talk more on that subject in another type of talk. But for many people, it's layered. It's layered of years of experience, starting from some point. But they kept attracting a certain type of experience because they didn't heal that first one. And you're just going to keep layering this type of experience that causes you pain. So you need to peel back the layers. Sometimes you can go right to the root, and if you can, your healing is pretty quick. You can understand, that's why I do what I do. That's why I think the way I think. That's why I keep attracting this experience. But sometimes that's not easy to do because it happened at a time when you can't remember those things, or maybe you've blocked it because it was so painful. But if you start to work from the layers, the outer layers, you start getting deeper and deeper into yourself, and then you start to recognize, I see, where this is coming from now, and I now understand what I need to do to heal it. Yeah. Any other questions? Should I carry on with the few little bits of information I had left in the screen share, the slide? Okay. Hans is telling us that there are many good books and articles about Parvati, Durga, and Kali arousing the goddess. Very good. Tim Ward, 1996 story. Would I like to talk about Kali? I don't know enough about it to talk about it. But there are lots of good books out there. And I do know this. Kali is fierce. Kali makes change. When you're ready to make changes, you can bring your attention and study a little bit more about Kali. You don't call her name unless you're ready for change. So most of us are tiptoeing around change, as you know, because it means upheaval. It means your whole world might be shaken. You might have to drop some people from your life. You might have to change your job, where you live. When you change one thing, there's a ripple effect, and it will change many things. One belief will break a chain of beliefs if you change it. So yeah, I can't talk much more about it, but if anyone is interested in that, please look into this book by Tim Ward. So do we have any other questions?
I have a question.
Okay, please ask.
Okay. My question is, when you talk about pain and physical pain versus like emotional kind of, emotional pain kind of collected at a place in some chakra. So how do we deal with the two?
Okay, so physical is the final resting place of the pain. It goes through so emotions are very interesting. Just like the mind and mind activity, emotional activity is ever changing. It's in flux. It comes in and goes, and it comes and it goes. The couple things to think about is this: your emotions arise from your thoughts. The way you think about an issue. I'm sorry. Nina, can you mute yourself while I'm explaining? Okay, good. So when you have a thought about something, it triggers the emotional response. And the emotional response triggers the reaction in the body. Now, if you could go through life without having a judgment on a particular event that happened, so no thoughts attached to it that would be creating an emotion, then you would have less physical sensation based on the experience that you went through. But because we have judgment, we are human, and we assess situations. What happens is we categorize it, and we naturally respond emotionally, which causes all these hormones to be triggered. And so low feelings, high feelings, all these things, they come from the thought. That stuff lands in the body. And let's say you go through a period of life where your experiences have been negative, which, if you're really going to be looking at this life experience that we have, as you know, we learn later that some of those negative experiences have taught us something or moved us in another direction, which was better for us. So if you go back to the beginning, and yeah, I know there's some very, very painful experiences that you cannot resolve right now and will forever or for a long time remain as negative in your mind. But many of them are not, because they guided you, they directed you, they taught you. So those experiences, if they could be viewed now as a learning experience rather than a painful bad experience, we might be able to shift the energy that we created through the emotion that we had that landed in the body, helping you release some of the holdings and the residue of those emotional energies that landed in the body. I hope that gives you a bit of an idea of how to work with it. There's obviously physical practices that we do to help release energy, but there's also mental practice that we need to do to help maintain a balanced, non-judgmental, neutral type of mind. So we are more of an observer rather than a assessor. We like to put things in boxes, but those boxes don't serve us forever. You may need to take things out of boxes and put them in a more open space so they can be observed from all angles and viewed differently.
I also mean sometimes you have to sit down the wrong posture, weak core, other things. Anyways, beautifully explained.
Okay, good. Good. All right. I think we have time for another question if anybody has one.
Yeah, we can. One more.
Anything about yoga that, that's in my realm of understanding anyway. I'm mostly an asana teacher, so I have some training at Shivananda. I've been going there for 15 years. I lived there for a year. I go back for months at a time, and I listen to the swamis teach and the guest swamis that come in. But there's only so much I can absorb. I am not a scholar in the sense that I do not dive into books deeply. I like experience. I learn from experience mostly, but I like to tie experiences into things that other people have discovered on other levels. So my answers will be more on the physical side of things if you have a question.
I don't know if anybody has a question. Can I have it there, but before that, I would really... Nora, can you mute, please? Can you mute my microphone? So if you don't know me, my name is Lalit Jerath, and also one of the organizers for the University of Guelph Yoga and Meditation Collective. And we were so thrilled to have you, Nora, and you have met all the expectations, if anybody had that, So wonderful job, and I'm sure we will have you another time, So thank you very much for your enlightening talk and truth, You're speaking truth, So that's beautiful. And also I would like to thank everybody that came here today, and some of them you're already gone. So keep coming, and that helps us, that encourages us, that motivates us to keep doing the work, whether good or not, that's up to you to decide, and just become in a community of some how do you call it? Some peace, inner peace, some inner peace, and some good if you can do, if you can, we all can do some. So thank you very much. And as I said, we can keep let the floor open if somebody wants to ask a question, or Nora, if you have something to share, Thank you. Hanshi, Shivananda.
Yeah, I'm just reading all the comments here. Wonderful. I'm Jnana Yoga is probably going to come for me. It's I'm not there yet. Good for you. That's a really very satisfying study from what I have learned from other people, how they're feeling about moving into the Jnana part of yoga. So I would like to thank everybody for coming today and bringing your energy and curiosity and questions. And I hope that we'll cross paths sometime in the future, and maybe we'll find out, or I'll learn a little more from you. So thanks, Lalit and Monique, for inviting me to do this. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay. Namaste, everyone.
Namaste.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Namaste.
You're very welcome.